Welcome to Vampire Showdown, where we discuss our favorite undead friends of the night and see who best fits the trope of which they are set to fight. I'm your host, Katharina Raven, and tonight's category is the iconic blonde baddie, also known as the very sadistic, undeniably narcissistic vampire who thinks they can walk on water, and they probably can. Of course, our first candidate is no other than the Brat Prince himself, Lestat. Lestat.
I talk shit about him the whole time. Little Wayne!
Lestat de Lioncourt from the Anne Rice Chronicles has been played by Tom Cruise, Stuart Townsend, and the people's favorite, Sam Reed. Lestat. Up next, all the way from Shreveport, is our Viking god, Eric Northman. From the series True Blood, played by the amazing Alexander Skarsgård.
My name is Eric Northman. I'm a tax-paying American and small business owner in the great state of Louisiana. I also happen to be a vampire.
For the third contestant, I originally wanted somebody from Twilight so I can really start this episode off with a bang, but after much deliberation, there was no better choice than our evil brother, Klaus Mikaelson, from the originals and Vampire Diaries, played by the stunning Joseph Morgan.
You've heard of me. Fantastic.
Klaus. Now, let's break down the rules for this Vampire Showdown. Every trope will have a set of criterion based on patterns recognized by me to qualify the iconic baddie. Number one for the iconic baddie is the obvious, the oozing of sexual energy. Category number two, god tier levels of self-esteem, also known as very arrogant. Category 3, utter lack of humanity. Number 4, you guys are gonna love this one. Progeny abuse. Oh, I know, that's harsh, right? But we gotta go there. And number 5 is a series of decisions leading to complete fall from grace and total isolation. Yeah, that seems to be a theme with the iconic baddies, so we're gonna go there. First, let's start with Lestat. Blonde, beautiful, theatrical, and extremely self-important. In terms of sexual energy, I think Lestat deserves a good, 5 hearts. I mean, have you guys been seeing some of the images of Sam Reed for this new season of Interview with the Vampire? The man is giving sex god. Sex demon, if you will. Lestat is pure seduction, and he does it through his grace, his regalness, his love for the arts. I'm really excited to see how this new AMC series interprets that sexy rock star energy. I am a huge fan of Queen of the Damned. We will have no Queen of the Damned slander here on my channel, okay? Because Stuart Townsend was also very extremely sexy. No, he was not blonde. But we know that it was Y2K era. They were giving him the emo vibes. It's fine. He's still Lestat. Okay? Brad Pitt, I think he was just fine. He's fine. I mean, it's just young Brad Pitt. But the essence of Lestat is definitely a 5 out of 5 leading hearts. For category number 2, god tier self-esteem, I give Lestat a 3 out of 5 bleeding hearts because even though he is oozing sexual energy and he is very outwardly confident and cocky, there's always a little bit of hint of self-hatred sparkling in his eyes. So that's just my opinion. I think it's a 3 out of a 5. For category number 3, utter lack of humanity, that one's a bit hard because if we're going by season canon, right now, where we're at, season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, Lestat does not care about humanity or humans, like, at all. But I think coming up as we transition into the Queen of the Damned, when we know that Lestat starts to have maybe thoughts about his relationships with the world and his soul and then this little Jessie human girl, whatever, I think it's a 4 out of 5. Just for me right now. We'll see how AMC decides to interpret Lestat in season 2, but right now, he's giving a strong, I don't care for humanity. I mean, literally in Interview with the Vampire, there was that scene where he brought all of those sailors or military men into his home, and he probably was going to drain them all if it wasn't for Louis. The other moment that really honed in the lack of humanity for me was when Lestat did what he did to that poor opera singer and just made such a joke out of it.
Well, I like to do it. I enjoy it.
Well, I don't. You don't have to humiliate him. And I don't say that you have to enjoy it!
It was not giving Christ-like. And for progeny abuse, I give it a 5 out of 5. Honestly, I give it a 7 out of 5 because literally from the beginning, Lestat preys on Louis. Okay. Lestat's relationship to Louis is so extremely toxic, and I think he's really abusive to his progeny. There's so many things about that relationship that are completely wrong, and we're gonna get into that in the next category. And for category number 5, a series of decisions that lead to a total complete fall from grace and total isolation, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. Okay, let's talk about it. So again, in the new AMC series, it literally starts with Lestat basically, in my opinion, I love Lestat, don't come for me, brainwashing Louis. He wanted Louis so bad. Literally, episode 1, Lestat is seen as such a manipulative abuser. First, he gets Louis to become obsessed with him. The first scene that they even meet was at the brothel, and the first thing that he does is take away Louis' flower, Miss Lily, in such a demeaning way. Then after that, he makes Louis get enraveled in him with all the voices, and Louis, he could have some sort of mental issue that amplified when he became a vampire. But from right now, from his unreliable narrator perspective, Lestat was definitely taunting him. Okay, and then on top of that, he unalives Lily, knowing that that's Louis' favorite girl at the brothel. And, I'm sorry, I have to say this, I do think Lestat may have aided in Louis' brother unaliving himself. That's just my thought. I don't know, we could fight about it in the comments, but it just makes sense. Nothing about Louis' brother was giving, I'm gonna unalive myself. Like, I had never... Okay, maybe the wedding with his sister was triggering, but just something about Louis' brother, he just had a lot of strength to me, and yes, he had mental issues, but it never came off to me as I'm going to jump off the roof. So Lestat said he had nothing to do with that, but we see later on, when he unalives Claudia, I'm just saying, if you can do that to your own child, of course you could do that to the man that you're trying to get to be obsessed with you. I don't know, just my thought. Okay, so even after that, basically, their entire relationship was just hell from start to end. They had a little bit of a honeymoon period, maybe, and then Louis ruined it by wanting them to have Claudia, which I understand. I mean, Louis was getting very depressed. But look at the way Lestat treated both of them. And then on top of all of these decisions, one, cheating on Louis with homegirl, making her a vampire. Okay, this is also progeny abuse because he made 3 vampires in this series. Okay, there was Claudia, Louis, and what was that girl's name? And the really cute redhead that he was cheating on. How can you be so evil that you literally make your booty call a vampire just so she can help you spy on Louis and Claudia? That is literal progeny abuse, and he gave no craps about that girl. In my opinion, his fall from grace was his complete arrogance and abuse towards Claudia and Louis. Ultimately, the way that he mistreats his family is why he ends up being alone. We see that huge fight with Louis, which went way overboard. That was literally dropping him from the sky. Lestat, you overdid it. You overdid it, honey. And I think that was just, you can't repair from that. It takes way too long. Thank God they're vampires, because in the human world, yeah, you can't recover from that. And then when Louis and Claudia try to find some sense of peace, Lestat has to be this vengeful man who comes and does this whole charade, embarrassing them and killing Claudia. He killed Claudia. Lestat is the reason why Claudia is dead. And I stand 10 toes down in that, even though I absolutely love Lestat for other reasons. This is why all of his decisions led him to complete isolation. So at the end of the season, when we see Lestat in New Orleans, he is ragged. That man looks tore up. And I think that just really humanized him, seeing that he had gone through so much turmoil during his time of isolation. And to me, it's like, okay, all right, you look like you're on the track to redemption. We'll see. Okay, we shall see in this next series. Up next is Eric Northman. In terms of oozing of sexual energy, this man's introduction into True Blood was showcasing his sexual energy. Literally sitting on a throne, doing nothing and being sexy. People were literally coming up to his beautiful feet and just begging to even be looked at. So if that is not an indication of how sexy Eric Northman is, I don't know what is. Also, not to mention, the man is like 6'5", Swedish god. I don't even know. So I'm gonna give it a good, I mean, I can't say he's sexier than Lestat, but I say they're neck and neck. Now, in terms of god tier levels of self-esteem, Eric is a good 7 out of 5. There is absolutely nothing that Eric does not believe about himself. I can't remember one moment where he's wavering. All of his wavering is usually just his relationship to others and never really his relationship to himself. Eric has the most self-belief I've ever seen in almost any fictional character, vampire or not, to be honest. So yes, it is a 7 out of 5. And for number 3, utter lack of humanity, Eric is definitely a 5 out of 5. He does not care for any humans. He and Pam could care less. But you know what? Actually, I'm going to take that back. Because there have been 2 instances where Eric Northman has fell in love with humans and literally would die for them, which was that French girl, Italian girl, I do not remember. And then Sookie. Sookie. I cannot. We will. Another episode for another day. So, I mean, besides the women that he falls for, Eric does not give a crap about humans. But I'm just going to give him a 3 out of 5 bleeding hearts for now, because he is obsessed lover boy. For progeny abuse, I give him 10 out of 5. And let me tell you why. Even compared to Lestat and Louis, who are just in a toxic relationship, Eric Northman's relationships with his progenies is heartbreaking. Like, it's heartbreaking to watch. Season 5 and on, once he has that moment where he has a little taste of Snooki, his brain goes completely haywire from that witch doing whatever, and he starts treating Pam like crap. He treats Pam so horribly to the point where there are sometimes I don't even want to watch the scenes that they are in together after that, like season 5 or 6. And then on top of that, he creates Willa, the governor's daughter, to become a vampire, barely spends a few moments with her before completely abandoning her. Like, Willa had nothing and nobody. She was completely used and abused by Eric. I think that's just really unredeemable. To take somebody's life and to give them a life of immortality that's already so hard to navigate, and then to also not spend any time with them is insane. It's insane. What he did to Willa and Pam is completely unexcusable. Gave no craps about Pam when she was dealing with Tara. That was awful. I don't even want to get into the Tara abuse right now. I do think Eric Northman in those later seasons is one of the worst makers I have ever seen, personally, because it's emotional abuse. It's not physical abuse. It's not narcissistic abuse. It's literally just pure neglect. And I feel like that's one of the worst abuses that you can put on somebody. Like, you see Pam, she is struggling. She is in the ringer. She does not understand why her partner in crime is treating her like crap for Sookie. And then that leads into the series of decisions that lead to his complete fall from grace and total isolation. So, we see in the later seasons, Eric loses his memory, he falls in love with Sookie, he gets his memory back, he starts treating Pam like shit. Then he and Bill do the stupid thing of infiltrating the authority and then becoming the authority, turning the governor's daughter into a vampire. Then after everybody gets freed from that horrible, awful vampire concentration camp, Eric goes off on his own, completely leaves Pam because he's like, oh, I can be in the sun now. I'm gonna go travel the world by myself. Forget you, Pam, and forget all the trauma we just went through. Okay, he gets the V, and instead of like coming back to say his goodbyes, he's literally sitting there by his lonesome in his misery. Pam has to go all over the world to find him, and when she finds him, he like doesn't even care to want to keep going. It's so awful. Unlike Lestat, Eric does have a little bit of a comeback. Okay, he allows Pam to convince him to come back into the real world and hunt down Sarah, and somehow throughout all of that, he does find the cure for V. He gets his life back together. So in terms of the complete fall from grace and total isolation, I give Eric Northman 3 stars. Let's continue with the Klaus Mikaelson. In terms of oozing with sexiness, I give Klaus Mikaelson a 3 out of 5 stars because I don't think he weaponizes his sexuality or his sexiness in the same way that Eric and Lestat do, to pull people in, to glamour them, to abuse them. Klaus is just abusive and manipulative in general, and I don't think he even needs to use his visuals or his sex appeal to get people to do what he wants them to do. But because he has the sexiest smirk I have seen in a long time, I'm actually going to give him 5 out of 5. Yeah. Okay, number 2, God tier levels of self-esteem. We know Klaus thinks very, very highly of himself, and I don't remember many moments where he wavers from that. So it's definitely going to be a 5 out of 5 stars for me. Now, complete and utter lack of humanity. Klaus is known as the most feared vampire in history. I would say he's one of the most fearful characters in history. He is straight up sadistic, evil, murderous, villainous, manipulative. Honestly, I feel like if Akasha had Klaus instead of Lestat, maybe. I think she would have been more successful with Klaus, but I actually still think she would have chose Lestat because she chooses Lestat for his humanity and his waveringness. She's so attracted to his like, I'm this prince, but also I feel so much shame. So I kind of take that back because I think Klaus wouldn't have pulled Akasha in. I think she would have known that they would have successfully completed their goal if she spared his family. But yeah, actually I take that back. I do think Klaus and Akasha would be absolutely smoking because they have such complete utter lack in humanity. So I'm gonna give Klaus 6 bleeding hearts. I don't know why I keep going past the 5. Just deal with it, okay? You get the idea. Now, progeny abuse. I think Klaus's relationship with Marcel is so nuanced, and I actually don't feel like his progeny abuse is at the same level as Eric and Lestat, because Klaus just kind of abuses everybody equally. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 bleeding hearts. Now, in terms of a series of decisions that lead to a complete fall from grace and total isolation, that is literally Klaus's entire life. Like, from basically babyhood, he was isolated by his father, and I think that just ended up being his personality ever since. So Klaus is constantly doing a series of decisions that lead to a complete and total fall from grace. Like, I don't think he's ever in good graces until the very end when he has his redemption arc. So, to be fair, He has the isolation of the iconic baddie trope, because Klaus makes the ultimate isolation in sacrificing himself in death. I think that definitely deserves a 5 out of 5 stars. Hearts. I think that definitely deserves a 5 out of 5 hearts. Thank you for your sacrifice, Klaus. The total number of hearts for Lestat, according to me, is 24 bleeding hearts, 27 bleeding hearts for Eric Northman, and 24 bleeding hearts for Klaus. So if we're gonna go by this criterion scoreboard, Eric Northman is the technical winner by my standards. However, I have a feeling that most people are going to say that it's Lestat, and here's why. Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles is probably the most notable, most famous vampire series, especially, I guess, book-wise, and in terms of time. I think Anne Rice has been the most popular vampire series for decades now, and Lestat being the face of that when Anne Rice is the face of vampire series, I think that automatically makes Lestat the most iconic blonde baddie. But what do you guys think? I know we have a lot of Klaus fans. He really knows how to touch everybody's soul. That bad boy who somehow redeems himself every single season, just really gets to people. And also Eric. Who doesn't love Eric Northman? Completely, utterly sexy. Eric is also so completely charismatic. So, if you think this episode should go to Lestat, drop some microphone emojis and why Lestat is your favorite iconic blonde baddie. If you're team Eric Northman, please drop some champagne bottle emojis to represent new blood. And if you are for Klaus Mikaelson, go ahead and drop that Viking sword emoji. And if I missed your favorite iconic blonde baddie vampire, please let me know in the comments who you think deserves the crown. Comment the next vampire showdown you want to see, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can be ready and prepared for next week's vampire showdown. Until then, stay thirsty, my friends.